Good morning and good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. I'm Yuhui from Marketing. As you all know, autumn is not only the harvest season for crops, but also for the HALCON newest version. Today, in HALCON 25.11 webinar, we are going to introduce you the newest feature of HALCON. Before we start, a quick note, we'll hold a Q&A section after the presentation, so please remember to type in your questions about new releases, new features in the chat. And now it's time to shine the spotlight on our speakers today. Jan Gärtner, HALCON Product Manager, and Nirkant Keshwab, Application Engineer. Please welcome.
Thank you, Yuhui. Yeah, welcome to the HALCON 25.11 webinar. Thank you for joining. It will be a really great webinar. We have plenty of things that are happening today. And we have a special request. So we are doing this webinar format for several years now, and we are really interested in your feedback. So we added a small section in the survey at the end so that you can give us feedback about the webinar format, what you like, what we can improve in the future so that you get the most out of it. But now let's start with the actual topic of today, the new feature webinar. So in this webinar, you will see all the major features of HALCON 25.11. So there's many things inside, for example, continual learning for classification and new deep learning technology. We have also updated our deep learning models. We have great improvements for shape matching, the so-called score visualization. And for the first time, we are releasing the HALCON script engine. And as I said before, there's much more inside this release. At the end of the actual HALCON part, we will also show you the latest deep learning tool 25.12 that will be released December this year. And now let's directly go over to the first section for today, deep learning. And this new technology, you have heard the name before, continual learning, is addressing a problem that our customers are facing really often on the factory floor. And the problem is that stable process conditions are not always guaranteed. What does it mean? So, for example, you have your production line, and after a while, you realize that you have to modify several process parameters. For example, here we are producing bread rolls, and maybe you have to adjust the oven temperature because the bread roll that you produce at the end is not perfect. But this modification of the oven temperature will affect the actual images that you take from your bread rolls, and therefore you might have to adjust your image processing check. So for example, you have to adjust your deep learning model. Another problem is that you might want to produce a new type of bread roll that looks completely different than the previous type. And also here you have to adjust your image processing. Last but not least, you might experience changes in the lighting conditions, and here as well you have to adapt your deep learning model. And this adaptation of your deep learning model is not that easy because for a standard classification model, you always have to do a full retraining to, for example, modifying an existing class or adding a new class. So simply adding or training with the new data doesn't work. You have to acquire the new data and then retrain the whole model to get a good result. Why is it? Because nowadays deep learning models are facing a problem called catastrophic forgetting. If you train a deep learning model only with the new training data, it forgets everything it has seen before. As you can see here on the graph, first we have 3 classes, then we want to add a new class to our deep learning model, and the deep learning model forgets all the previous 3 classes and only remembers the newest screw class D. With our latest technology, continual learning, we are actually solving this problem by offering a technology with that you can add new classes to an existing model without forgetting everything the model has seen before. And you can also adapt an existing class. So Nilkant, how does it work?
Yeah, let's have a closer look at the workflow. So previously, when you wanted to train a classification network with new data, you had to use the old data and the new data, train the classification model, and once the training is done, you then had to optimize it for AI² interface. But with continual learning, the workflow has been simplified, which means retraining can be performed only on the new data, and you can use the model that was previously trained and optimized for the AI² interface, which means the continual learning, which means training the model with new data is actually just a single step. It's faster than training the entire model once again. So the key takeaways here is that you don't need access to the old data once again, and the model updates faster, which means you can add new data in a very simplified step. So let's see how you can do this in HALCON. So you have a classification model. You have to initialize it for continual learning, for which you use the operator initDL continual learning. Then once the initialization is done, you can also then extend the classification model with either new classes, or you can add data to the old classes itself. You pack all the input images in the dictionary DL dataset new, and then you perform the training. And once the training is done, you can deploy the classification model simply by using apply DL model as always. So there is a new standard example, continual learning for classification. So you can have a look at the standard example, understand the workflow, and modify it according to your application. Let's have a look at how continual learning performs. So in our internal benchmarking, we have seen that the inference time of a model with after continual learning and before continual learning, the inference time, there is pretty much no difference between the inference times. As you can see here on MobileNet V4 small and large networks, the difference in inference time is in fractions of a millisecond here, which means you can actually extend your model with new classes without slowing it down. Furthermore, you might also think, okay, how much time would it take to actually retrain the model with new data? In our internal tests, once again, on a GPU, you can see that the retraining is actually very fast. It takes just around 2 milliseconds per sample. And on a CPU, it takes around 5.25 milliseconds per sample, which means, say you have 5 samples that you would like to retrain, you can finish it within 30 milliseconds on a CPU. So this is actually very fast when it comes to training a deep learning network and extending a model with new data.
As you might see, this technology is especially made for embedded devices, because you can now simply adapt the classification model directly on the embedded device, on the edge device, because you don't need the whole initial training data set, you only need the new training data. Additionally, you only need a few images for the actual adaptation, and the training on the edge device is really fast. So you don't have to wait for minutes. It's done within a few milliseconds or seconds.
Furthermore, so in our previous results, you would have seen that we have used MobileNet V4 for our internal benchmarks. And you might be thinking, how is this possible? That's right. We have added the new classification model MobileNet V4 in HALCON 25.11. So MobileNet V4 is the latest version of the MobileNet family of neural network architectures, and it is specifically designed for efficient performance on edge and mobile devices. There are 3 models that you can choose from: small, medium, and large, according to your application. And you can also use these models as backbones for object detection. So that was about continual learning. What else is there in deep learning?
Yeah, that's another really important technology for our customers, and that's the Deep OCR. So this technology is used by many customers, and for those who are not familiar with the Deep OCR, it contains 2 models. The first one is a Deep OCR detection model that actually finds text boxes or text areas within the image. And the second model is the recognition model, Deep OCR recognition. It reads the text within every text box. And there have been various improvements in recent years. And with this release, we are releasing 2 new models for the Deep OCR recognition, so for the text reading. And this time we really had speed in our minds. So we wanted to make our Deep OCR faster. So on the one side, we have updated our standard Deep OCR. So the standard model, it has now a slightly higher accuracy and is faster. And now we are also providing a new model called Deep OCR Recognition Compact, which is especially optimized for embedded, and it's up to 10 times faster. So whenever you really have a high-speed application and the existing Deep OCR might not fast enough, you can now switch to the Deep OCR Compact to get an even shorter inference time.
Let's have a look at the difference in inference times between the previous recognition model and the latest recognition model here. As you can see, the runtimes has increased dramatically. It's faster by 2 times on GPUs and even more, up to 3 to 4 times on a CPU itself. That's not it. The accuracy of the new recognition model is on an average 4% better on our entire data set and up to 2% better on our internal industrial validation data set. But what's more impressive is its performance on an embedded device. On an ARM Cortex platform, you can see that the inference times for both the new recognition default model and the compact model is way faster than the previous recognition model from the previous version. And what's more impressive is especially the compact model, which performs even faster than the default recognition model. So it makes it a very effective choice to use compact models on embedded platforms because the runtimes are very, very fast. When it comes to embedded devices or in general deep learning, what's also important is memory consumption. How much memory does your recognition model consume? And we have improved the memory consumption as well. You can see that the standard recognition model consumes just around 1/3 of the memory that was previously required by the recognition model from the previous version. And even more impressive is the compact version, which uses much lesser memory. So all these are very good reasons for our customers to upgrade to the latest version to benefit from all the advantages of the new recognition model and the new compact recognition model. That was about Deep OCR. There is another small update here. With the new HALCON version, we are also upgrading our NVIDIA toolkit versions, especially the CUDA, CUDNN, and TensorRT. Furthermore, we are also supporting the latest graphic card from NVIDIA RTX 50 series. Also please note that the old NVIDIA Pascal architecture, the 10XX cards, are no more supported. So this was about deep learning.
Thank you, Nikant. I think you have seen that really a lot has happened in the last 6 months in the field of deep learning. But for us at MVTec, deep learning is a really important pillar. But another important pillar are our rule-based technologies. And so deep learning often performs even better if you combine them with a rule-based technology. And one major thing for us is matching, especially the shape-based matching. And this time we are improving here the usability. So you might know this problem, that you get a shape-based matching result, as you can see here, and we get back various scores. So for example, for one template or one region that we have found, we have a score of 0.82. For another region, we have 0.87. But why? Because everything on this image is green. So for a beginner, it's not obvious to understand why we get different scores for the same template, but everything is green. As an expert, you most likely know, okay, here we have some edges of the template that couldn't be found. And the reason, as we can see here on the image, some parts are hidden or behind other parts. And for this reason, these edges couldn't be found. So for an expert, you might see it directly. For a beginner, it's really difficult. And so with HALCON 25.11, we are improving our usability here by offering a new feature called score visualization. It's something our customers have asked for quite a while, and now it's inside our product. So you can now basically visualize which edges of a model could be found and which edges of a model couldn't be found. As you can see here, we have in green the edges that could be found, and in red we have edges with a really low score, and in yellow edges that are somewhere in between. It's really helpful, and it guides, for example, the end user that is later on using the application.
Let's have a closer look at the workflow of how you can use score visualization. So general workflow of shape matching doesn't change here. You create and you train a generic shape model. And then there is a new parameter called score visualization, which you set to true. Once you set it to true, you perform find generic shape model as usual. Once you have the results, you have to then set two score thresholds, the low and the high. And then you get the results with get generic shape model result object, which means you get all the contours of the shape model that contribute to these score thresholds here. So once you give the thresholds and you see the contours that contribute, then you can change the colors for displaying and then analyze your object. Since this is a new feature, it does not currently support certain parameters like max deformation, pyramid level lowest, pyramid level robust tracking. Furthermore, you have to create your models from a template image and not from an XLD. So we do have these limitations in mind, and we are considering it. Furthermore, if you want to know if your model supports score visualization, there is this parameter called score visualization enabled, and you can use this to see what the value is. Based on the value, you can use score visualization for your model. So this was about shape matching, and we hope that this will really help our customers to see which edges actually contribute to good scores and which edges can be used for training the object itself.
Let's continue with the next section of this webinar, code reading. Code reading is important for various industries, for example, for the logistics industry. And here we are facing a specific problem called print growth. So print growth means that some elements of a barcode, for example, are wider than others or more narrow. And this is really challenging to read because you don't know which bars are now wider or should be more narrow. And with HALCON 25.05, it was simply not possible to read barcodes, so code 128 codes, with those type of problems. With HALCON 25.11, we are now solving this really challenging problem by introducing a new algorithm and introducing a new parameter. So whenever you're now facing this type of problem, you can simply set the parameter element size variable to true, and you can also read now codes that are suffering under print growth. This parameter is optional, so you have to actively turn it on because it slowly increases the execution time of the operator for code reading. So by default, we want to have a really short execution time, so we set it off. But if you have this specific problem, simply turn on this argument and you will get better results.
When it comes to QR codes, there are two new improvements. Firstly, the detection of QR codes on deformed and curved surfaces has improved significantly from the previous version. So with a better method to find code candidates in the images, especially for codes that are slightly deformed, the recognition rates have improved significantly. But that's not it. The speed of code recognition has also increased dramatically, Here for standard recognition, it is up to 10% faster compared to the previous QR code recognition, and the enhanced recognition mode is up to 20% faster than the previous versions. So all our customers can definitely benefit from the faster execution time of code recognition.
And for many customers, it's not only important to read codes really robustly, they also want to print high quality codes. And here we are offering for several years a technology called print quality inspection. And in recent years, 2 of those standards that we have implemented have been updated. So the first standard you can see here on the left, it's really important, for example, for the logistics industry. It defines how a good code should look like. And the second standard is especially focusing on direct print mark codes, meaning codes that are printed directly on an object. And in these 2 standards, there are really several changes. So many things have changed in the standard. I would say most importantly, the grading is now continuous. So you don't get as a result back a 1, 2, 3, 4. No, you can also get back a 3.5. And this will affect your results. So if you update, keep this in mind. But if you want to benefit from the latest standards or you have to fulfill the latest standards, you can simply update to this HALCON version. And if you want to get a better understanding of what is happening or how you can use it, simply check out our new standard examples and that we are showing how to use the updated PQE, print quality inspection.
Thank you. When it comes to 3D vision, yes, there are some improvements in deep 3D matching. So we have enhanced our training pipelines for our deep 3D matching. The target objects now undergo improved augmentation during the training process, which leads to more robust results, more robust matching results, especially for scenes. So in our tests, we have seen that especially for scenes that contain multiple objects and you want to perform deep 3D matching on it, we have seen that the inference is up to 25% faster for such scenes. There is an updated standard example, Deep 3D Matching Training Workflow, which explains the new workflow. You can have a look at it and once again adapt it or use it to improve your application.
For image acquisition, so we offer various image acquisition interfaces. We have this time a new improvement for our GigiVision interface. So with HALCON 24.11, we have introduced GigiVision 3.0, which is especially great for high bandwidth applications. So when you have really high resolutions, high frame rates, because it supports direct memory access, meaning images are directly transferred from the camera to the memory of your computer, bypassing the CPU, reducing the CPU workload. This was with HALCON 24.11 for Windows, and now with HALCON 25.11 we are adding the Linux support here. So for really high performance Linux applications we have now a better solution.
Furthermore, sometimes it might be required that you might have to send some additional metadata to the host system, like for example transfer frame ID or the timestamp for auditing purposes. Or it could also be the exposure or the gain settings of the camera, or maybe the 3D configuration configuration metadata when you want to reconstruct 3D objects, etc. So you can now send all these additional metadata to the host server along with the image chunk. How do you do this in HALCON? So first you enable chunk mode, and then you select the parameter using a chunk selector. You select the parameter that you would like to get as along with the image chunk, and then you acquire the image, and then in the data handle you can see that the parameter that you need is visible as in the handle itself. So the workflow is very simple and you don't need to make a lot of changes to your program. So this is another new feature which all of our customers can use.
I think you see that really a lot has happened in the last 6 months on the feature side, but we are also taking care for other requirements from our customers. One example here is in the field of cybersecurity. So in recent years, there are many cybersecurity initiatives. For example, we have the EU Cyber Resilience Act. So we have to fulfill several cybersecurity requirements our customers have to fulfill. And we want to support our customers by fulfilling those requirements. What does it mean? With HALCON 25.11 now, we are offering a software bill of material. It's a standardized machine-readable file that includes all our third-party components. We already have delivered a third-party component TXT file in the past, but now it's a standardized machine-readable file that is required to fulfill all those cybersecurity requirements. In 25.11, we are now adding the software bill of material for the most of our modules, so for the HALCON core library, for our image acquisition interfaces, our language interfaces, and I/O interfaces. Some software bill of materials are not provided with HALCON 25.11, for example, the AI2 interface, the HDev engine, and HDevelop, but we will add those software bill of materials within the next year so that you can be safe that everything is ready as soon as this EU Cyber Resilience Act get active. And another thing to improve the usability for our users is a new licensing topic. You might know the scenario that you want to debug a deployed machine or deployed software, and this requires a SDK license. But one problem that you might facing is that you want to debug a machine, but you can't connect your HALCON USB dongle that verifies your SDK license. There are several reasons for. One could be that you're on a factory floor with really high security restrictions, so you're not allowed to connect your USB dongle to an active machine. Or another use case is that you are doing remote support. So maybe the machine is somewhere else on the other side of the planet, and you want to work with the SDK license on this machine, but you can't because you simply can't connect your USB dongle to this machine. Our solution for that is a new feature called license borrowing. So with the license server cloud ready, you can now create offline licenses for a specific target system. Meaning, within the license server cloud ready, you can now specify a specific target system and a duration. And the license server cloud ready returns a license file that you can simply deploy on the target machine and that it doesn't require an additional dongle. So you can reuse this specific dongle you have already used on your machine. It's already connected, and you can use now this SDK license on this machine. Once the license expires, so after the predefined duration, you can create a new license for a new machine. So it's really convenient for all those maintenance use cases, for example, remote debugging. And then there's HDevelop EVO, our new development environment.
Yes, let's have a look at what's new with HDevelop EVO. First and foremost, we have introduced syntax highlighting for HALCON scripts. Syntax highlighting is one of the must-have features for any IDE to make it easy for programmers to program. And now you can see that procedure calls, operators, variables appear in different colors. So this is the first feature. The second thing is we have also introduced a converter to convert the old HALCON HDev scripts to the new H scripts. This is called the HALCON script converter. And how you can use it? There are two methods. First, you can use it within HDevelop EVO, or you can also use it with the command line interface. How do you use it with HDevelop EVO? So there is an option for you under File to import either one single HDevelop file or all the files in a folder. The conversion or the resolving is done automatically in HDevelop EVO. And then once this is done, you can directly use the H scripts in HDevelop EVO. We are also providing an executable with which you can convert old HDev files to the new HScript files using the command line interface. Furthermore, the new HDevelop EVO is still evolving and it's still in progress. There are certain limitations of the underlying script engine or the interpreter itself. For now, the certain language features are still not yet supported, like vectors, parallelization, global variables, etc. But we are continuously expanding the capability of HDevelop EVO, and all these limitations are being considered, and in the upcoming versions, all these limitations will not be there. Further,
yeah, that's about HDevelop EVO. And as Nirkant already have mentioned, there's a script engine. And now for the first time, we are releasing the HALCON script engine, which is basically the successor of the HDev engine for C++ together with HDevelop EVO. It does mean you can now integrate the scripts that you have developed with HDevelop EVO into the final application. So if you have a C++ application, you can now simply integrate the H scripts execute them into your application. If you are using .NET or Python, you will add these interfaces really soon, so most likely with the next HALCON release. The benefits of the new HALCON script engine are that they're especially developed for HDevelop EVO and the HALCON script language. We are offering a faster engine startup and procedure loading in comparison to the existing HDev engine, because some customers have faced the problem that if they have really a lot of procedures, the engine startup got really slow. Now we are solving this problem with the HALCON script engine. There's also no need anymore for JIT compilation, so you can directly execute the script without JIT compile them before. And we are also aiming for simpler and leaner API for the HALCON script engine. And here we have one example on the following slide how the workflow for C++ does look like.
For all those who are using HDev engine, moving to HScript engine is very easy. The workflow just remains the same and there are no new operators or functions. In fact, the API has been simplified much more. For example, you can see here setting input parameters, be it iconic or control parameters, or getting the output parameters from a procedure is very much easier now. You can use these inline syntax type to get and set parameters. This improves the code readability, and it's also very easy for our programmers to program and use HScript engine.
Yeah. And you might ask, HALCON script engine is a preview and HDevelop is also a preview. When will be the first official release that is not a preview anymore? And here our goal is to release the first version for productive use with HALCON 26.11. So the next HALCON progress steady release. In the meanwhile, we will add many more features into our IDE and our HALCON script engine. For example, we will really enhance the image data visualization within HDevelop EVO. We will add missing tools, for example, the image acquisition assistant. And we will further improve our HALCON script engine, as mentioned before, with the .NET and Python API. And we will extend the language support. As you know, for example, vectors are missing, as we have seen before. Those will be added in the future. With that, we are basically at the end of the HALCON part of this webinar today. You have seen that there are many new things in HALCON 25.11. For deep learning, we have continual learning and 2 new deep learning models, or even more new models for classification, new models for OCR. We have the score visualization that helps all our shape-based matching users to improve the visualization, to provide more guidance during the application development. Our image acquisition interface is now more powerful, supporting GigiVision 3.0 for Linux and chunk data as well. We have various improvements for code reading. We have new we are now fulfilling more cybersecurity requirements, having the new license server and the new HALCON script engine. So that's really a lot for 6 months, and I hope it's a big benefit for you. Before we end this presentation, I will also give you a short outlook of the next deep learning tool release, which will be released December this year, 4th of December, and it has as a major feature the support for tags for image management, and additionally it now supports to load external pre-trained models, and it has many smaller features, fixes and improvements inside. Tags are actually a really useful functionality inside the deep learning tool, because you can use tags to solve many problems. First of all, imagine you have a really large project with multiple people working inside. Then you can now assign tags to an image, and this tag can tell a user, so the first 100 images are tagged with user A and should be labeled by user A, and the next 100 images can get the tag user B, and then this user knows, okay, I should label those images. So it helps you to coordinate your work. Another use case is that you might have, on the one side, people who are labeling the images, and then you have domain experts who are later on verifying that all those labels are correct. And for this, you can simply now introduce a tag that might has the name ready for review, and then your domain experts know, okay, this is an image I have to review now, and I can verify that the labels are correct. A third use case is that you might have problematic or edge cases. So this could be images that are really difficult, have a low accuracy, the result, and then you know, okay, we should add more data of this type in the future. So it reminds you, here we should add more data. And there are several more use cases that you can use tags for, so it will really help you to coordinate your work within the deep learning tool. Other new things, you can, in the deep learning tool now, also load external pre-trained models. So you might have trained a model in the past, you can now import it into the deep learning tool again. You can move and rename images directly on the disk. So if you rename an image inside deep learning tool, you can also rename it on the disk. Quite convenient. We have the possibility to edit the validation rate to speed up the training. So if you lower increase the validation rate, the validation happens less often, and so you need less time for the training. And last but not least, we improve our confusion metrics, so it now is also supporting legacy classes. Meaning, if you import now a pre-trained classification model, but your existing dataset doesn't include the same or all classes from the imported model, it's not a problem anymore. It doesn't throw any errors. You just get a great confusion matrix where you can see which classes could be detected and which classes couldn't be detected correctly. With that, we are basically at the end of the webinar. I want to say thank you for watching, and okay, one correction here, not the end of the webinar, at the end of the presentation. I would kindly ask you to fill out the survey now, and in, I would say, 5 to 6 minutes, we are getting back here and we are starting the Q&A session. So if you have any further questions, feel free to put them into the chat, and then, yeah, we see each other back in 6 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you.